Hey guys, thanks for being part of this Undistracted podcast. I'm Laura Bennett, and in this conversation, as we seek to clear out some of the clutter in life and work out how we can be better at building our lives with intention, we're joined by singer-songwriter Pat Barrett. You may know him best for his songs Good Good Father and Build My Life, but he has written and sung so many others that have impacted people right around the globe. So in this chat, we talk about how when he does put so much of himself out, how he finds time to recenter and what it is that draws him back to his purpose. We also talk about why he craves authenticity and what was lacking in one phase of his journey as a Christian worship leader. So I do hope you enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can continue to watch these interviews, and subscribe to the Undistracted podcast wherever you listen to yours as well. Let's jump in. Pat Barrett, thank you so much for joining us on Undistracted.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we need to know, as we jump in, of course, what would living an undistracted life, one clear of clutter, mean to you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that would mean there's so many levels. I'm thinking about what a disaster my car is right now. Like, that would help. Cleaning out the kids like Cheetos and like old French fries, that would help a little bit. I think there's like it would involve like a simplicity, and usually the most simple things are not, they're like actually the hardest things. And gosh, I mean, I think about all the times in my life where I lost sight of that. And, as a person who says yes to a lot of things just because like I'm an extrovert, I want to hang out, guys, what's going on? Like, I've learned along, especially once kids came along, I have 3. With every kid, you feel your capacity for everything outside of that starts to really dwindle, right? And the more I started to participate in the limitations, I'm going to say that, like, normally we think limitations as like a bad thing, but it's not. Like, there is a holiness to work and rest and being on and being off. And Jesus withdrew to lonely places to be with God. Like, I'm going to say this one story because this is what I'm a preacher's kid. I have all these, like, I always thinking like Bible verse, like metaphor or whatever. But the story of Jesus meeting the woman at the well, what I found fascinating at a point in my life where I felt overworked. I was anxious. I couldn't sleep. I said yes to so many things. I was like spinning too many plates and having to choose which one was going to drop, all because I didn't understand something that Jesus modeled in this story. And it says literally before the encounter with this woman at the well, anyone who grew up in church knows that story. Like, it's famous. It says that Jesus was tired, so he sat down, is the verse. And I just remember going, oh my gosh, when I'm tired, I like rebuke the spirit of tiredness. I cancel you, tiredness, enemy, or whatever it is. And I started to realize, like, Jesus did not violate limits or the human experience that I will violate all the time in the name of progress or work or, and once I started to see that pattern, it's actually like everywhere in the Gospels, like it started to show me a different metric.
Right.
And I'm continually using that as like a rubric for myself. Like, okay, gosh, it feels like I'm getting that feeling again. My heart's racing. I'm worried. Like, I'm worried about tomorrow. It's like the one thing she's like, don't worry about this. If you're worrying, that means there's something wrong already. Right. Like, if there's worry. And so part of living an undistracted life for me is putting in practice some of the things that Jesus told us to do that we hate doing them. Oh my gosh. Like, we'll avoid them at all costs. They'll be like aspirational, but we won't do them. But discipleship was always like, do what I do. Like, do this, try this. Yeah, I don't know. It's been such a liberating thing for me in my own life and simplifying. Like, wow, it's hard to get wrapped up in
Mm.
all the other things when you literally don't participate in it. And it's been, when I do that, it's always beautiful. And so every
Yeah.
day when I don't do that, I'm like, okay, come on, you know this, you know how to do this.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you,
Um,
you mentioned some of the things that show you when things are going wrong. You feel anxious, you feel that kind of worry for tomorrow. What are the things for you that tell you that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, that you're switched on to purpose and that you're walking in the right lane? What are those things for you?
those things for me, gosh, that is a great question because it kind of depends on what it is. Um, and I'm going to say that because, someone's like writing songs, there's always a sense of like anticipation and nerves that I love.
Mm.
It's like the good kind of scared when you're about to share something that means so much to you and you're just like
Kind of giddy with it.
busting at the seams. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that part of it I think is so beautiful. I think there is a um a posture, I'm going to call it, more than an activity. It's when you live with like closed fists and you're so scared to lose what you have,
Mm.
which makes you scared to risk, which means you're not open to listen to anything. Like there's a closedness to that. And we all like, I think that can manifest itself in like different ways with different personality types and
Mm.
especially based on like your own experience in life. But living in a way where you're not open to changing and you're not open to growing and you're not open to trying and you're so scared of failing that can't even give effort or
Mm.
whatever, like those things for me are indicators that something's off. And on the flip side, I think the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, like fruits of the spirit, like the virtues that grow in our life when we're connected to the vine, like
Mm.
those are indicators for me, like okay, like I'm there, I'm on a path right now that the fruit is good.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's perfect, but any growth in a healthy direction it doesn't have to be monumental overnight. A little each day is really is miraculous when it's in the right direction.
Mm, yeah, it's really encouraging. And I think that's really actually so helpful to so many people who would know you as an amazing songwriter. You've been doing that for such a long time now. What was your original intention, though, when you first began writing songs? What was the goal?
Oh, okay. I'm thinking back to fifth grade. To be in a punk band and travel the world and rock.
Of course.
What was it? Like I think this is what I love about kind of what I'm doing now. Like it's not much different than when I was in fourth grade and we had our garage band in our neighborhood and the cops got called on us because we were setting up our amps outside for no reason. We're like, we should probably play outside. People will love this. Neighbors will love this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like music has always been something that has connected with me beyond just like a hobby. Like it's not a hobby to me. It was something that like always felt important. And um, it was melody before lyric. Melody made me feel something. And I
Mm.
couldn't, and I also grew up in the church. My dad's a pastor. So like I grew up around faith and, the truth, but also music and people singing
Mm.
and emotion. And there is something that I can like look back and say, like, whatever happened during those like formative parts of my life, like have stayed. And I knew, and this is what I knew. I knew at some point, um, I knew music was always going to be a significant part of my life.
Mm.
Not in a job vocation sense. I had no idea about that. I just always knew I was either going to like, no matter what I did, if I was like an accountant, I get off of work, I come home, I'll sit at a piano and I was going to play. You know what I mean? Like
I would
those
love
things were
that.
going to happen anyway. So I do like pinch myself where I'm like, okay, I'm still like doing music and there's going to
Mm.
be a day where I'm going to be an accountant. You do not want me doing your taxes. Don't do no. don't hire me if I'm ever an accountant. Run.
Yeah.
But it does, like, I think following the things that I was already passionate about, that's why I started leading worship, because I was like, okay, there was a need at this ministry. And I was like, well, I can play guitar. I know I'm 14, but God, can you use that?
Yeah.
And that's really what it was a question and a desire. And I think I've still been on that like road. Like the songs have changed, the way they sound, the influences have evolved over the years, and subject matter is different, but the heart of like, gosh, God, I'd really like this. Can you use that? That is still here at 36 in the way it was when I was in like fourth grade,
Yeah, it's so amazing. And I think the world of songwriting, even whether it's in mainstream spaces or whether it is in this kind of Christian worship space, it is so crowded. So how do you remain focused and not competitive? Or are you actually really competitive and you just want to like smash every other Christian artist is?
And I just put on a front. Yeah, I'm like, I'm trying to undermine everything. No, I think there's, like, it's hard for me to be, well, let me say this. I am competitive, but I'm really competitive against myself. And I've naturally always turned that energy like inward. Now that's not to say there aren't times where like you leave your guard down and all of a sudden like you're like criticizing yourself because you're comparing you to somebody else. Like, of course, like that happens. But what also happens is the music that my friends are like making has like so touched my life, like so deeply. Like I don't want I want more of that. Like, goodness, like that's only more goodness for the world is only a good thing. And
right.
I do think it's, to be really vulnerable and honest about it and transparent, that is like a life's walk. And I'm 36. Like when I'm 70, I hope that I'm more patient than I am now. I hope that like I have less selfishness. I hope that that's the direction that I'm heading. And I'm saying that because everyone has their, the nuances of your personality that come out. And anyone who is competitive, like God can deal with that. Like he's not like surprised. He's like, oh my gosh, 20-year-old, young 20-year-old comes along, has a bunch of songs that just blow up, and wow, looks like he's got a lot of maturing to do. Of course he does. He's 20. What else did you think was going to happen? Like, so I do think that there's also a graciousness to grow on a long road with God that you have to like accept for yourself. Otherwise, the self-critical people like me, you'll be condemning something that's in the process of growing. And that's what I remember years ago. There was a moment, I'm driving in my car, I'm hearing all these like amazing songs that people are writing. Seriously, it's like probably 10 years ago. And I just started to feel bad about myself. I was like, I quit. I was like quitting every song. Every song would have, I quit. And then the song's over, like, I'll give it a shot. I hear another great song, like, no, I quit, and I started to turn an unhealthy criticism like inward. And I felt like I sensed God say, like, would you condemn like a seed for not being a full grown oak? Would you do that? Like this seed, this little thing has the only difference between this and the oak tree is care and time. This seed has everything within it to be exactly what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't dare condemn that because it's not an oak yet. No one does that. You wouldn't do that with a kid. You wouldn't do that with anything that takes time to grow. And So that's what it did. I'm saying that because learning to accept the journey that I'm on and growing in my discipleship and my learnership to Jesus is like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And painful work at times to confront some of the things that are in there that you wish weren't, but they're there. So what do you do with that? Do you stop sharing songs, or do you talk about it and find that thing and confront it with Jesus and make it a place of communion? And all of a sudden you're not as scared of it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And you have people in your life that won't let you get away with stupid things too. So that's massively. I have amazing friends.
Of course.
Like that.
The best friends are the ones that can tell you the truth in a kind of loving yet firm, maybe harsh at times kind of way. But I think one of the other lifelong journeys that a lot of artists face, whether, again, they are in the mainstream space or the worship space, particularly for you, would be that blend between what you're doing as worship and artistry. What's your perspective on the way the two kind of go together and how they feed each other?
Yeah. I have and am still in the middle of working that out in ways that I didn't think I'd be thinking through 5 years ago, because I'm starting to share songs that don't fit the categories I thought that I assumed would matter most. And I'm saying that, I don't mean to be like, like coy about that or anything, but like I used to withhold certain songs because they didn't sound the way worship songs sounded, and they didn't, everyone couldn't scream it at the top of their lungs. There wasn't like a big building bridge. And so I would withhold things that meant a lot to me because I thought they didn't fit. And I don't think that's worshipful. I think that's fearful. And I have in the past refused or been scared of sharing things that have been avenues of communion and worship for me, at fear of being misunderstood, that like, there's some art, that song, like that's not a worship song, or that's not worshipful, or like, how am I going to sing that in our small church? Like that there has to be a bigger metric that we use. Otherwise, we'll all look at our own unique design and we'll start to criticize the artwork that the artist created, saying like, well, you didn't give me enough songs like, Chris Tomlin. Like something's wrong with me because I write this music and this connects with me. And I think the message of the gospel, and also the opportunity we all have, is to use what you have and what you've been given in a posture of servanthood and self-sacrifice and love to the world. And I don't care what that sounds like. And there will be critics who say that's not worship, or that's not worshipful, or it's not helpful. There will be people that don't understand that and will dissuade you. And usually the biggest critics are the ones that didn't try.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the most
yeah.
critical people. I've done that to people when I was too scared to try. I was like, why are they doing that? Or whatever. You embody the thing, you project it on somebody else instead of living your life before God and saying, okay, well, Jesus had like tax collectors and doctors and all these people in different fields. He didn't convince them not to do that.
Yeah.
Like as you do that, be a disciple.
Right. What do you
as
feel?
You write pop songs, do that.
Yeah. Well, what do you feel gave you the permission to start letting some of those songs out?
My wife.
Bless her. We love her.
I mean that. She said, there was a point in my life where I just felt like I knew some change was coming, but I just didn't know what was next. And we all know that feeling where you're like, something's shifting. And all of a sudden it looked clear and now I see fog, you know. And so I was praying for a long time. I didn't feel like I got any clarity about it. So I asked Meg, I was like, babe, like you know me more than anybody. You've seen me, like the question, like you see me when I'm in my lane and I'm focused and you know, all cylinders are firing and
Mm.
I'm present. You've also seen me scattered and aimless and confused, and knowing my personality, knowing like the journey up to now, and like, what would you tell me to do? And she just kind of sat there and she said, I think you should do a solo album. And up to that point, I'd not thought about it, was not in the plan. I had
Mm.
zero, literally zero desire. Like, and I said, well, why? Tell me why. She's
Mm.
like, because you have a bunch of songs that you sing around the house that mean a lot to you, and they don't have, for whatever reason, you don't feel like you can share them. And I think that if you just did your own album and you could share them, I think you'd be surprised at what you feel.
Mm.
And so I told her no. And then, but the next morning, like the thought stayed there. And over like days and weeks and months, it went from like an absolute no to a huh. And, you know, a lot of times other people can see way more clearly than we can.
Mm.
And I'm so grateful. I heard like the voice of the Holy Spirit via Meg to encourage me in that direction and also challenge me, you know?
Mm. Yeah. Did that process kind of tie into something that I've heard you say before, that sometimes in life we can be incentivized to present a version of ourselves that isn't who we really are, and that there's these challenges to being truly authentic in life and faith? Was that kind of part of that process for you of coming into a more authentic version of yourself?
Yeah, honestly, you know, I think I can see like chapters of that along the way. I'm still in it right now. I I feel the tendency every day to put my best self forward at the cost of what I really feel and who, you know, and what I don't mean is like if I'm feeling mopey, you just walk around like a mope dog your whole life and just expect other people to deal. That's
Mm.
not what I'm saying. But I am saying there is a there is the only, it seems the only requirement for Jesus is that he won't meet with the fake you.
Mm.
He meets with you. He doesn't meet with Instagram you or Twitter you or Facebook you or blogger you. You know what I mean? Or
Mm.
podcast you. He meets with like you.
Yeah.
Um, and what that has done in my life is it's severed the ties of trying to make my deepest identity something I do instead of who I actually am, which is
Mm.
always like, you know, you get pulled in that direction all the time. Like, I am a songwriter. Well, yeah, but no, like you write songs. Well, I'm a guitar player. Like, well,
Mm.
yeah, I'm a teacher. Yeah, but no, you teach. It's not who you are.
Yeah.
And those types of um really like the subversive implications of faith is that it never allows you to start tracking a life. You never get permission to start tracking a life if that foundation is wrong. Like
Mm.
it's always like, well, let's just like come back to this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and sometimes like that process is painful. Like, gosh, it would be really painful. Like, obviously, so if you had to change vocations and didn't do something that you're so used to doing your whole life and you don't know who you are and have to, you know, reinvent yourself, not really, but just
Mm.
choose a different vocation, like
Yeah.
that is hard, challenging, holy work to come back to who you are
Mm.
in God and allow that to, and not get wrapped up in all the other things. And it's why Jesus warned about it, I think, more than anything,
Mm.
with, especially with like public religious work. He's like,
Yeah.
whatever you do, like, I just want you to know it's easier to be fake when you're a religious public person.
Yeah. That's a challenge.
So when you pray, I know. So it's like, okay, so how do we deal with that then, Jesus? What am I going to do? It's like, okay, when you pray, don't let anyone hear you. Don't do it in public. Go into your room, shut the door, find a quiet place, and pray in secret.
Yeah.
0 public reward, 0 social affirmation, 0 opportunity to use your inward holiness as leverage to advance your career or get their attention. And when you realize the mechanism at work that prods us all to do it, like we can't even like read the Bible without talking about it.
Yeah.
We're like enjoying coffee, but the Bible's like conveniently open in the background or whatever we do. We do all those things. So like having a secret life with God that you don't have to share with people, that you don't have to prove yourself, your worthiness or your like anointedness or whatever it is. Jesus gave us the antidote thousands of years ago, and we hate it. We don't like that medicine. That's painful medicine. I don't like the way that medicine tastes because I like the way it feels when I'm celebrated for how awesome I am or whatever. So that thing has always been, I mean, I keep that like right in front of me. Like, gosh, for every minute I'm ever on stage, I hope there's 99 other minutes that are not. Like, let that be the ratio of like hiddenness, connection with God to what people see. Like, if that's the ratio, that'll avoid a lot of unnecessary oops, I've lived my whole life in front of people and I don't even know who I am in God anymore or whatever. So that's what I try to do.
And maybe that kind of answers this question, but I know that your music recenters the lives of so many people that listen. It just kind of recalibrates you in the right direction. What does that for you? What is the thing that recenters you?
Oh, wow. My kids, they recenter me. They don't care about, Spotify numbers. They could care less. They care that I'm present and that I'm here. And they know when I'm here, but my mind is not, I'm somewhere else, And that is far too expensive of a cost to live a life where you're never actually here. You're always in the future. You're always in tomorrow. You're always thinking about some other place. You're always trying to escape this moment. And the invitation of God is that he's present. He's like actually here. And we value it. We sing songs about it. Your presence, Lord. Like we have all like the presence songs. Who really has like the presence problem? You think God's presence just all of a sudden showed up and you've been here the whole time waiting on him? Or maybe he's been here waiting for us to finally wake up, I think of, and those things center me and allow this moment to be filled with miraculous, holy, connection that is simple. And it's a narrow path. Wide is the path of worrying about tomorrow and getting to the end of the day and realizing like, oh my gosh, I just spent 12 hours doing everything I was doing and I was never actually here. And I found kids and my spouse and Jesus to be very centering.
What do your kids do that delights you the most?
Oh my gosh, they're just wild. They're also they're like their little personalities are coming out so differently right now. But Harper Gray is this, just angel of a eldest kid. She writes like worship songs. She's like, Dad, I was thinking about courage today. And you're like crying. You're like, oh my gosh, like talk to me. And then my kids, my boys, my two youngest boys are like just little tornadoes. They just, their creativity is all in destruction and they're funny and witty and they say the craziest things. Like Um, and they have this, what I love about kids is they don't have like a long record of wrongs.
Yeah.
They forgive really quickly. And um, I think that is such a beautiful picture, and maybe one of the reasons why we're encouraged to be childlike. And because children have the upper hand. We have to like relearn how to be a kid
Mm.
again. Um, have faith like a child, and I they help me unlearn
Yeah.
bad habits.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but I get to be auntie to so many of my friends, and you observe the things that the mum and dads really want to teach their kids, the qualities that they want them to have in life. And I think one of your songs, one of the recent ones, I think touches on a couple of qualities that people really want to have of justice, mercy, humility. Why are those some of the things that you feel are important for us to inhabit in life?
Well, I think those specific things stand out because it's a really old question. What does God care about? What is important to him? There's nothing new about that question. We think like 2021, we're like, God, I know you were just as surprised as we were. What do we do? Right. But that verse is out of the book of Micah, thousands of years old. The prophet is asking that same question. God, what do you care about? What matters to you? Like, life is crazy, God. Like, you know, it's 1000 BC over here. And I know this surprised you. Like, things are getting out of hand. And the question has always been, what matters most? Like, what is important? Where are you in all this? And that verse, the culmination, the answer to that question is Micah 6:8, where he says, I've shown you, O mortal. I like that. Oh, mortal, like your short time here, what's important? Like you don't have much time. Like you can have a long life, but it's a breath.
Mm.
And it's far too short to waste it on unimportant, uninspiring things that cause a lot of pain and hurt. And deep down,
Mm.
you don't see someone acting justly and go like, ugh. It's like you already know that's like that feels eternal.
Mm.
Someone who shows mercy that where someone didn't deserve it, it's offensive almost. Where you're like, how could you forgive this person? How could you let them off the hook? How could you? What gives you the ability to do that?
Mm.
It's because something is eternal about that.
Mm.
And the humility piece is probably the most like disturbing one, because what was modeled for us was a life of self-sacrificial love.
Mm.
And it confuses our measurement of what is truly important and significant and successful and worth celebrating. Because at the end of Jesus's life, he was crucified. No one thought it was successful. Like, well, what a waste.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the feeling. And what we learned from the scriptures is self-sacrificial love is never wasted, ever. It transforms the world. It can save your soul. It is like anyone that's been on the other side of a selfless act of love and grace and mercy has been rocked by. We write like Broadway plays, like Les Mis has that element to it. Someone doesn't know what to do with the massive amount of grace and mercy they're shown. Javert, like, sorry, I'm talking about Broadway now. But
I love that.
Those themes of it, that's the point. Like, those themes are everywhere and speaking to us. And it's amazing that they're found in scripture and have been like calling us back home. Like, what do we do with racial tension and injustice and racism and systematic oppression? We act justly.
Yeah.
I know, but like it's complicated. Well, you act justly. But what about when I don't want to, or it's inconvenient, or costs me something? Well, you act justly, you love mercy, you walk humbly. What if I disagree and I just would rather not? Well, you act justly, you love mercy, you walk humbly. You know what I mean? Like, no one gets a pass from those things. And I think that's why that verse and these songs and the album felt so important, because it was like, it was helping me free myself from compartmentalizing my life. Oh, God cares about this and he doesn't care as much about this. So we can set that aside and really focus here. Like, no, the whole thing matters.
Yeah.
All of it matters, of the heart, the way we act, the posture, and the way we walk through life. Like that. Does God care all about that? Like all of it? Like, yes, of course he does. Like, should I? Yes, of course we should. And that's a lifetime of being in love,
Yeah.
you know, and being willing to let that be the most formative thing about you. So it makes me think about.
Yeah. Well, the album is amazing. Chatting with you, Pat, has been amazing. And I think I've decided what the title of this podcast can be. It can be Pat Barrett Loves Broadway. I think that's what we'll tagline it as.
But honestly, I do. So
good.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks so much.